What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing the updated timeline for Ninjago. So let's talk about this. Now, this is the updated timeline for 2025, and before we begin, we got some ground rules talking about the complete timeline of Ninjago. First and foremost, we are going to be including the first 15 seasons of the original run of the series, plus the 3 specials and the 3 seasons of Dragon's Rising, which also includes some shorts, books, etc., that are canon to the show. Other things such as the Ninjago movie, the video games, some comics from back in the day, and other things, etc., those won't be included because those are not canon to the show. And that's basically the ground rules of this video. So sit back and relax, and please enjoy the complete timeline of Ninjago. Chapter 1. Before Time Had a Name. Long before time had a name, before everything, of course, happened, we are, of course, introduced to, of course, the Source Dragons, the most powerful dragons on, of course, this realm. And these 7 Source Dragons, of course, made elemental powers, which, of course, are pretty important, of course, in the future of the timeline of Ninjago. And of course, the first realm was also, of course, existed in this, of course, realm. The other realms were, of course, even manifested too. And of course, at some point in time, the Oni and Dragon fight in the first realm centuries later. And of course, a boy who is a both hybrid between Dragon and Oni was born, later titled as the first Spinjitzu Master. During the Oni and Dragon War, a dragon called Thunderfang, the Dragon of Chaos, was destroying the City of Temples because he was deemed ineligible from the Source Dragons. That is until the Source Dragons call upon the Archdragon of Focus to defeat Thunderfang once and for all. He, of course, met the mother of all dragons, Firstborn, who was, of course, the Source Dragon's birth to the first ever dragon, naming, of course, the dragon Firstborn. Of course, Firstborn and, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master made, of course, the dragon armor and the dragon bowblade to end the war between the dragons and the Oni. And, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master, of course, created the Realm Crystal, that way he could travel to other realms. After falling to the end of the war, the first Spinjitzu Master uses the Realm Crystal to escape from the realm of course, the Oni and Dragon, while Firstborn was just left behind, of course, the Oni and Dragon, waiting for him to come back. Chapter 2. Pre-Ninjago. The first Spinjitzu Master arrived in this ocean-filled realm, engaged with, of course, chaos, by a giant serpent named Ojira, who held the control of the elements of water and wind. He decided that he, of course, make a peaceful realm, and he, of course, must to defeat her. And, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master worked alongside with, of course, the Merlopians and the Keepers to fight her. Of course, they, of course, struggle to beat Wojira and nearly get defeated, but at the final resort, of course, the first Elemental Master Water, Niad, attempt to pray the Storm Amulet and the Wave Amulet from Wojira's head, and of course, emerge, of course, herself with the sea, and of course, defeat Wojira. Of course, the first Spinjitzu Master gave each amulet to, of course, the Keepers and the Merlopians, and of course, all was in peace in this realm. Then, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master forged the golden weapons in the Temple of Light with gold from the Golden Peaks. With the 4 weapons he created, he, of course, made the island of Ninjago. Sometime after, the first Spinjitzu Master fled from, of course, the realm of Oni and Dragon and created Ninjago. Of course, the Oni, of course, arrived to, of course, the realm and, of course, create an Oni temple. That way, the Oni can seek, of course, for the first Spinjitzu Master. And then, of course, when the Oni are defeated, the Warlord's Dream Oni Mask, the Mask of Vengeance, the Mask of Deception, and the Mask of Hatred are left behind Ninjago, where over time the 3 masks are separated to different places. Chapter 3. The Stone Wars. Having been drawn towards the light of a new realm, the Overlord, of course, the power of all darkness, and chaos manifests himself in the shadows of a new land and declares a war to decide the fate of course, Ninjago. The Overlord corrupts quickly separated across the island until he's challenged by, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master. The Overlord created the Storm Army to combat the first Spinjitzu Master as well as the Temple of Fortitude to, of course, against the Golden Power. To combat the Overlord, and of course, the first Spinjitzu Master used the power of the Golden Dragon and the Golden Mech to fight off him. Of course, unable to stop the Overlord, the first Spinjitzu Master split Ninjago into smaller islands, Ninjago and of course the Dark Island. With of course the Overlord vanishing into the Dark Island and his corpse form destroyed, while of course the Storm Army were of course buried or in a tomb underneath the area that would one day become Ninjago City, of course, leaving the ultimate battle between good and evil, of course, not even finished or undeclared. A millennia before the ritual of the Blood Moon, the first tournament of the sources are organized by the first game master, Roke. Chapter 4: The Creations of the Dragon Cores. One day, the first Spinjitzu Master was meditating and foreshadowed a vision of the core lessons, which is of course all of the 16 realms combined into one huge land. And of course the first Spinjitzu Master feared this, and he of course seeks out the Sword Dragons and asks them to make him 3 dragon cores using their energy. Of course, with the power of the Sword Dragons, the first Spinjitzu Master created the 3 dragon cores, which is very powerful enough to keep all the realms balanced from each other. And of course, the core lessons was stopped due to, of course, the power of the Dragon Cores. But since then, Ninjago was at peace. Chapter 5: The Sons of the First Spinjitzu Master. Garmadon is born as the first son of course, the first Spinjitzu Master. He inherited, of course, the Oni powers of destruction from his father. Then, Wu was, of course, the second son of the first Spinjitzu Master, which he, of course, inherited the dragon power of creation from his father as well. In order for the first Spinjitzu Master's children to represent, of course, both balances of destruction and creation, Wu and Garmadon discovered the scrolls of the Forbidden Spinjitzu as their father writes them, but he does not allow, of course, them to use them. Then, of course, Wu teaches Spinjitzu to the Serpentine named Aspira in their privacy after she helped him and Garmadon get out of their cells when the two crossed lines between the humans and the Serpentine. Aspira, of course, used the advantage of her new Spinjitzu abilities to overthrow, of course, the king. Of course, Wu and Garmadon sealed the scrolls and used Forbidden Spinjitzu to, of course, defeat Aspira and, of course, lock her up forever. At some point in time, the Overlord corrupts a serpent and sends, of course, her after Garmadon to put his plan into motion. One day, Wu and Garmadon were, of course, sparring, and Wu, of course, loses one of his katanas over the wall of the monastery. Afraid of their father's, of course, disapproval, Wu chooses not to go after it, but Garmadon does. But in the progress, he got bitten by the snake. This bite will, of course, becomes an evil venom which starts to affect him, even causing him to tell his father that he hates him and blames Wu for all that happened. A few years go by where Wu and Garmadon are in their teen years, and of course, the first Spinjitzu Master sends both Wu and Garmadon on a journey that could, of course, have a cure for Garmadon's bite from, or venom from, of course, the snake. And of course, the next day, Wu and Garmadon leave the monastery and heads to, of course, the village as the first part of their journey. And of course, a few, books go by. I'm not gonna talk about the books because I don't care about books. But if you are a book lover, you should probably go read, of course, the Spinjitzu Brother books. I think they're kind of fantastic. So yeah. But in the end, of course, Wu and Garmadon did not find a cure for Garmadon's venom. So, and that's pretty much it for both of the brothers. Chapter 6: The Rise of the Forbidden Five. The Forbidden Five, elemental masters from the wilderness, founded the Wolf Clan. They discovered the Roxian and invented Shatterspin. leading to the corruption of themselves and the wolf warriors. The two dragon masters, called Eagle and Rontu, created Rising Dragon technique to counter Shatterspin. To find a prison more permanent than the departed realm, the two dragons traveled to Mysterium and requested the High Sorcerer Glandaria, a spell she spent all day and night making. The Forbidden Five intended to destroy all the realms as a means of conquer. The two Master Dragons defeated the Forbidden Five and banished them to Nether Space. Unlike other spells, the spell used to banish the Five continued to exist after its internal use and became sentient, traveling the realms into the following centuries. At some point after, Eagle and Rontu sealed the Shadow Dojo, enclosing all of the remains of the Five's legacy inside. Chapter 7 Centuries Ago. At some point, Yang invents Airjitsu, allowing the users to fly in the air. Of course, Yang discovers the Yin Blade, and in a failed attempt, of course, turns his students and himself into ghosts. The first Spinjitzu master locked himself in his tomb and, of course, passed away when the sons were no longer children. But at some point, this leaves, of course, him to leave a message on, of course, his staff for Wu that will lead him to his final resting at some point, where, of course, the Realm Crystal is hidden with him. A pirate named Captain Soto and a djinn named Nanakon would clash in a battle between their ships, the Destiny's Bounty and Misfortune Keeps. With Soto providing victory, Soto traps, of course, Nanakon in the Teapot of Tyron and scatters his crew across the 60 realms. Before going on the look for the Island of Darkness, Soto and his crew accidentally crash into, of course, the coast of Ninjago, causing the ship to sink and killing all of them. In the Netherrealm, the Ice Emperor would rule the Netherrealm for many, many decades. Chapter 8 Decades Ago. Dr. Julian builds Zane, the first ever ninjoid, and builds, of course, the Falcon as a companion. Garmadon trains under Master Chen alongside Klaus, and later Garmadon gains the title Lord as Chen's right hand. Chen got Wu's love letter to Masako and convinced Garmadon to sign his own name in Wu's love letter to Masako as his own. Meanwhile, Wu finds Maro at the Monastery of Spinjitzu and trains him. He learns that Maro is a descendant of an elemental master of wind. The golden weapons are placed before Maro. However, they do not glow green. Maro fails to become the Green Ninja and blames Wu for all of it. Wu tells him that destiny brought him there, but Maro caused chaos in the monastery because he is still very bitter and upset about it. He then runs away and attempts to find the tomb of the first Spinjitzu master in anger. Chapter 9 The Serpentine War and the Battle for All of Time. The Serpentine War begins, and Garmadon defects from Chen. But before Garmadon leaves, Chen tells him about the power of the Forbidden Five and gives him with an amulet and a map to the wilderness. Garmadon tells Wu that the power of the Forbidden Five could help them win the war. Wu tries to get Garmadon to stay, but Garmadon doesn't believe that the villagers and the Elemental Alliance alone can win the war. Yet Wu tells him to have faith. Garmadon uses Chen's amulet to travel to the wilderness, which this is where the Shatterspin issue, of course, starts. However, I'm not going to talk about it, but I will talk about it in the 2025 timeline. Garmadon, Wu, and the Elemental Alliance fight the Serpentine, who in turn eventually split up during a battle in the forest. Garmadon realized the potential of the Sacred Flute, which the Elemental Masters construct, allowing humans to win the war. The Serpentine are locked away in their tombs, the Anachondri generals are banished to the Cursed Realm, and Chen and Klaus are banished to an island far from Ninjago due to the involvement with the Serpentine. The Time Twins, Chronix and Crux, betrayed Wu and Garmadon and tried to take over Ninjago with their own power over their element of time. The Elemental Masters of Fire and Water forged the Time Blades out of Chrono Steel. Wu and Garmadon used them to battle the Time Twins and absorb their powers. Then they disposed of the Time Blades through a temporal rift as Chronix and Crux followed them and became lost in time. At some point, Crux emerges from the temporal rift along with the Reversal Time Blade and begins plotting his revenge on the Masters of Water and Fire for creating the Time Blades, and Wu and Garmadon for stripping him and his brother off their powers and causing them to be lost in time. The Elemental Masters of Water and Fire find the Reversal Blade, and Wu had them dispose of it in the boiling sea. At some point after the war, Garmadon married Misako. Years after leaving Wu, Moro died in the Caves of Despair, and his soul is banished to the curse realm coming of his own actions. A video game designer named Milton Dyer created Private Empire, which goes horribly bad and goes into hiding after the disappearance of his test player. A wolf named Lord Raj traveled from the wilderness to Imperium to visit Emperor Lebo. Raj tells Lebo about the end to Imperium's limited energy and offers him to help to hunt a source dragon. Levino rejects the offer, but Beatrix later plots a plan to overthrow him with the help of Raz. Raz and Beatrix secretly bombed Levo and of course killing him instantly. Beatrix's twin sister Zeatrix is framed and Beatrix becomes the Empress. The claws of Imperium are formed to hunt down dragons, and Beatrix creates the Advanced Systems Lab for Imperium scientists to make dragon hunting devices. A woman named Lily, the current elemental master of Earth, visits Shintaro Mountains to defeat Griefbringer and gives the geckos and the monks the Blade of Deliverance. She then also goes to another realm to take part in the Tournament of the Sources. Chapter 10, Birth of the Ninja. Lily and Lou had their own child named Cole. Cliff Gordon and the former Master of Lightning had their own son named Jay, but they abandoned him and left him at the doorstep of Ed and Edna, and of course they would adopt him as their own. Kai is born to the Elemental Master of Fire and Water respectively, Ray and Maya. 2 years after Kai's birth, Nia is born as the second child of Ray and Maya. Chapter 11, Battle Between Brothers. Garmadon and Misako had their own child named Lloyd, making Lloyd the final of the original 6 being born. The corruption is finally complete of Garmadon, which overtakes him. It mainly manifests itself in the form of overwhelming grief. He returns to the monster of Spinjitzu to steal the golden weapons in an attempt to recreate Ninjago in his own image. Will confronts him, and after a short battle, the combining of the 4 weapons and the protection spell on Wu's kimono opens a gateway to the underworld. Garmadon is struck by lightning, blackening his skin and casting him down, fully scrambling to the evil in his veins. Garmadon battles Samukai for commanding over the Skulkin army and easily wins, becoming the ruler of the underworld. Wu realizes that Garmadon will stop at nothing to get the golden weapons, so he hides them away in the secret locations, each guarded by an elemental dragon. Wu made a map of the 4 secret locations so someone could find them if he perished, and gives the map to the Master of Fire, Ray. Chapter 12, After the Banishment. Ray and Maya are taken by Crux for his plans. When Kai and Nia were alone at the blacksmith shop, they invented and play a game called Countershock. The Elemental Master of Ice arrives at the forest and gives Zane his powers, Zane being completely unaware of this. Will meets Dr. Julian and Zane and tells Zane that he will see him again someday. In his final moments, Dr. Julian erases Zane's memories, Zane becoming an orphan, but Dr. Julian is soon revived by Samukai to make vehicles for them. But when Dr. Julian disagrees, the Skull can take him to the lighthouse guarded by a Leviathan to force him to design their vehicles. A group called the Lonely go on a quest to retrieve the Scroll of Hazador for King Vangelis, but gets sent to rock bottom after denying his true intellections. Vangelis takes over the dungeons of Shintaro by using the Skull of Hazador and forcing the geckos and monks to buy them for him after stealing the Blades of Deliverance. Misako knew that Destiny would take her son as the Green Ninja, so she drops off a young Lloyd at Darkly's boarding school, so she can go find a way to prevent the father and son from facing each other. However, she kept in touch with him through letters. A capsule crashed somewhere in the wilderness, and a little kid named Wildfire was raised by a dragon called Heatwave. Masaru begins his search of forming a ninja team. He finds Cole climbing a mountain, Jay testing a dimension, and Zane meditating under a frozen pond. The 3 train together for a short time as a team of ninjas. Masaru comes into a search to find the final ninja, Kai, working with her sister Nia in their parents' blacksmith shops. Kai, of course, denies Master Wu's offer, and Garmadon orders his Kolkin army to, of course, find the map of the golden weapons. They find the map of the golden weapons and, of course, kidnaps Nia. Kai finally decides to, of course, join Master Wu, and Kai agrees to begin his training as the Fire Ninja. Kai meets the other 3 ninjas, and the ninjas begin their hunt for the golden weapons. They find 3 out of the 4 golden weapons, and of course the Skulkin army stole the 3 out of the 4 golden weapons. Kai went to the Fire Temple and finds Nia, but Kai was led to a trap by Lord Garmadon. Master Wu takes the Sword of Fire and goes to the underworld to confront his brother. The ninjas headed to the underworld, but soon got trapped by the Skulkin army. However, they used the Tornado of Creations to slowly defeat them. Wu confronts Garmadon, but Samukai betrays Garmadon and attempts to take all 4 of the golden weapons for himself. But since of the powers combining, he of course imploded and dies, opening up a portal to the realm of madness, which Garmadon reveals has a plan to escape. All was at peace, and the ninjas will now become the masters of Spinjitzu. Before heading back to the monastery, Nia goes back to the blacksmith shop and of course got attacked by the Skulkin shortly after she defeats them. The 4 ninjas race with their dragons to become the dragon masters for the month. 2 skeletons attempt to steal the golden weapons at the monastery while everyone was sleeping, but get quickly overpowered by the weapons themselves. Kai and Nia return to the Fire Temple and discover a passageway between Ninjago and the underworld shortly before destroying it. The spell continues on to travel across the realms until he meets Master Wu. With Master Wu's advice, the spell took form and created a form named Bonzel. A young Lloyd released all of the tombs of the Serpentine, including the final Anacondrae Pythor. Meanwhile, the ninjas fight a prophecy of the Green Ninja, made by the Cloud Monks, which one ninja will rise above the others and becomes the Green Ninja. The ninja is destined to, of course, defeat the Dark Lord. Master Wu tells the ninjas that he needs to go to the Realm of Madness because he needed Garmadon's help. The ninjas unlock their true potentials, but in the end, when they rescue Lloyd, it turns out that Lloyd will become destined to become the Green Ninja. But Pythor formed all 4 tribes and tried to find all 4 Fang Blades. He successfully did it and of course released the Great Devourer, causing chaos on Ninjago City. During the Battle of the Great Devourer, a little young Harumi was of course trying to get out of course the building. However, both Harumi's parents died and of course Harumi became the quiet one. Lord Garmadon used the 4 golden weapons, which destroys the Great Devourer. Ninjago was finally at peace once again, and the ninjas start training a young Lloyd to become the Green Ninja. So Master Wu trains Lloyd to find the calm inside of himself, to find his inner peace and balance from, of course, getting all the chaos from himself. I know this is kind of shaky, but of course Lloyd is inaccurate, but it takes place, of course, the events of Season 1 and of course the start of Season 2. So I added in here because I think it kind of makes sense in of course the timeline of course Ninjago. The ninjas needed a place to train for Lloyd, so the ninjas met Dareth and of course trained Lloyd at his dojo. Garmadon went to the 3 peaks and turned the golden weapons into the mega weapon, and he used the mega weapon to turn anything using the power of creation, to making Captain Soto's crew, to the evil ninjas, and of course time travels back in time. The ninjas turn into kids, but luckily Master Wu and Nia save the day by using the Tomorrow's Tea, which makes of course the ninja back into their older selves, which also makes Lloyd older. The ninjas destroy Garmadon's mega weapon, hitting up to of course the stars. The Serpentine and Garmadon went to the Island of Darkness, but the Serpentine of course left Garmadon behind. But he of course met the Overlord, and they both team up to of course have a big plan to of course destroy Ninjago City. The ninjas go on a quest and they go find the Temple of Light, and of course giving the ninjas of course new weapons and of course new suits because of money. The Overlord corrupts Garmadon, and Lloyd and the Overlord had a fight. Of course, the Overlord and his army of course escapes, while leaving of course the ninjas left behind. The ninjas go back to the Temple of Light, finding of course the first Spinjitzu Master's Golden Mac, which using it for combat in battle. They of course arrive back at Ninjago City, and Lloyd unlocks his true potential, becoming the ultimate Spinjitzu master, defeating the Overlord, and of course Ninjago is back in peace. And of course, Garmadon turned back into human and of course became good again. A few days has passed and the Ultra Dragon went back home to the First Realm, reuniting with Firstborn. And of course, they got killed off by Iron Baron, the leader of the Dragon Hunters. A year has passed, and a guy named Cyrus Borg turned Ninjago City into a futuristic city called New Ninjago City. The ninjas became teachers, and of course went to New Ninjago City to meet of course Cyrus Borg. Turns out the Overlord of course didn't die and became a computer virus, and of course Cyrus Borg gives the ninjas new weapons and new suits to of course fight the Overlord. Lloyd comes back to Ninjago City, and the Overlord wants Lloyd to become the ultimate Golden Master. The ninjas went to the main power station and of course killing off all of the power. And of course, the Overlord was of course lost of course the power. But a mysterious person rescues the Overlord's hard drive and moves him to an underground lair. Turns out the mysterious guy was actually Pythor, who actually survived the Great Devourer. Him alongside with the Overlord and the ninjas go to the moon and of course retrieve the golden weapons, turning it into the golden armor, making the prophecy of the Golden Master. Zane sacrificed himself to of course save Ninjago, and all was at peace once again, and of course Zane rebuilds himself from the ground up. Ronan kidnaps Zane and Pixel and delivers them to Chen. The ninjas went on their separate paths. Jay becomes a game show host, Cole becomes a lumberjack, and Kai becomes the Red Shogun. The ninjas all reunite together and meet at Chen's noodle house. They find out that Zane is still alive, and the ninjas join the tournament. Garmadon tells the ninjas that there were of course more elemental masters than of course the original 4 and energy. The tournament begins, and the elemental masters fight each other to see who would win in Chen's tournament. Cole and Jay were fighting, and Cole ends up getting eliminated from the tournament. He later fights Zane and the other elemental masters trapped under a noodle factory, and they would have to find a plan to of course get out from this factory and go save of course Lloyd from Chen. Chen's army turned into anacondas and caused havoc around Ninjago, but the only way to defeat Chen's army was getting the anaconda generals. But they had to sacrifice one of their, of course, characters. And of course, Garmadon later sacrificed himself and of course, killing off Chen and his Anaconda warriors. All was finally at peace in Ninjago, but of course, they opened the realm which leads to Moro. Masaru opens up a tea shop, Steve Wisdom, and the ninjas were promoting it. Lloyd of course went to Ninjago's Museum of Histories and got possessed by Moro. Moro of course came to Steve Wisdom and of course defeats the ninjas. He later reunites with Wu and fight for the staff. Soon later, Moro finds the decrypted hidden message that the first Spinjitzu master gave to Wu from his staff. The message was of course about the Scroll of Erjitsu, the Sword of Sanctuary, and of course the Realm Crystal. The ninjas unsucceed to find the Scroll of Erjitsu, so they went to the Erjitsu temple looking for another scroll, and in the progress, Cole became a ghost. The ninjas finally unlock Erjitsu, and the ninjas go to the Cloud Kingdom to get the Sword of Sanctuary. The ninjas go back to the Caves of Despairs to find the tomb of the first Spinjitzu master. However, it was a trick by Moro, but the ninjas went to the Ice Ring to of course find the Realm Crystal and of course the tomb of the first Spinjitzu master. Moro finally got his hands on the Realm Crystal and opens a realm to of course the Cursed Realm to free the Pre-Eminent. Of course, the ninjas of course defeated the Pre-Eminent, mostly because of Nia, because of course Nia became the elemental master of water, which of course she got her true potential, and of course all was finally in peace in Ninjago. The ninjas are now famous, dealing with their newfound fame. Of course they're interrupted by Klaus, which is of course roaming around Ninjago. So the ninjas are trying to stop Klaus, however they're trying to escape a news helicopter which of course failed. However, Klaus eventually makes it and of course finds the teapot of Tyron and of course frees Nauticon. Nauticon traps Klaus, and of course Nauticon goes and finds Realm Crystal. He frames the ninjas, of course bringing the ninjas to of course jail, and of course with the help of Captain Soto, they of course find the Tiger Widow Island to get the Tiger Widow Venom. Of course, during all of this, the Sky Pirates and Nauticon go back to Ninjago. However, it's being destroyed since the sister realm, the Cursed Realm, was of course destroyed last season. So Nauticon's father gave him the Jin Blade to of course kidnap or trap of course the ninjas, which Nauticon does, and only leaving of course Nia and Jay. Nia of course got kidnapped by Nauticon for a wedding, while Jay made his own team with of course previous Ninjago characters from the past seasons, and of course freeing all the ninjas plus Masaru and Masaku out of the Jin Blade. Of course, a final battle happens, and of course Flintlock shoots the Tiger Widow Venom to Nauticon. However, some of the venom landed on Nia too, and the only way to fix everything was Jay's final wish to, of course, no one finding the Teapot of Turon ever again, which of course reverts back in time, and now we're just in an alternate timeline when Season 6 just never happened at all. But we do know that of course it's of course canon because Jay and Nia slightly reference Season 6, well, sort of the events of Season 6 by wink jokes. So yeah, Season 6 just never happened at all. It's Day of the Departed, and Cole wants revenge on, of course, Master Yang for what he did to him, making him as a ghost. So Cole confronts Master Yang with, of course, the Yin Blade, which he accidentally opens up, of course, the smoke gas thing, which of course is all of the villains from of course the previous seasons, and of course got revived because of the Departed Realm. And of course all the previous villains team up and of course fight individual ninjas respectively. And of course all of them failed, but of course Cole of course fights Master Yang and got his due Earth Punch, and of course sacrificed himself of course the Rift, re-inverting him back into human. Masaru's new tea shop, Steve Wisdom, is doing really well until a new rival coffee shop opens across the streets, drawing away the tea shop's customers. Soon, of course, Masaru and the robot manager soon settled their differences, and of course, Steve Wisdom stayed at Ninjago City alongside with the coffee shop. Acronix returns after 40 years being lost in time, and takes his revenge on Wu for putting him there. Acronix was secretly working with, of course, Dr. Saunders. Turns out it was actually Crux, who has been in, of course, Ninjago for the last 40 years. And, of course, their goal is getting all 4 time blades and making a time machine, going back in time, and, of course, stopping the events at the end of the Battle of All Time. Which, of course, they successfully got all 4 time blades, and, of course, goes back in time with, of course, Master Wu, Nia, and Kai. They, of course, succeed. However, Kai, Master Wu, and Nia use, of course, the reversal time blade, going back in time, and, of course, changing and fixing the past. The 3 against the Time Twins, of course, have a fight, and, of course, Master Wu is now lost in time. Master Wu fights the Time Twins, but he, of course, de-aged, of course, going from an old man to, of course, a young baby, going to previous Ninjago seasons and future Ninjago seasons. And of course, Master Wu is now lost in time, but somehow went to a portal or a rift to go to his own timeline. 1 year has passed after Wu's disappearance. The ninjas are still searching for him while at the same time protecting Ninjago. Of course, Lloyd fails to stop, of course, the rising criminals of the Sons of Garmadon from stealing the Mask of Vengeance from Borg Tower. Of course, Lloyd calls back the ninja team, that way they can, of course, guard the Mask of Deception. The ninjas meet the royal family, and of course, Lloyd has a crush on this princess called Princess Harubi. Of course, Mr. E shows up, who of course got the Mask of Deception, but it turns out it was a fake, and the ninjas have the real Mask of Deception. Suddenly, the SOG members of course got the Mask of Deception, and they need to find the final mask, the Mask of Hatred. Turns out Cole had this baby who turns out to be Master Wu, and of course had this palace called Prime Evil's Eye, which was of course the palace that they only had to keep in sight of the first Spinjitzu master. Of course, Harumi and Lloyd go there and collect, of course, the final mask, and turns out that Harumi was, of course, the quiet one, planning his plan to resurrect Garmadon. They successfully resurrect Garmadon, and of course, Lloyd loses his powers. The ninjas are, of course, dead. I'm just joking. The ninjas are, of course, in the realm of the Onion Dragon, just stuck there. Lloyd and Neil are just in Ninjago with no help at all until the Elemental Masters return because money, I guess. And of course, Lloyd goes to Borg Tower, telling everyone to, of course, fight Garmadon and, of course, make some resistance. In the realm of Onion Dragon, the ninjas meet Iron Baron and his Dragon Hunters for the first time. And of course, it turns out that Iron Baron and the Dragon Hunters know, of course, the first Spinjitzu Master and try to find the Dragon Armor. Of course, meeting this female Dragon Warrior named Fate, they try and find, of course, the Dragon Armor. The ninjas were heading to Oni territory, but there was not a single Oni there. So, of course, they went to Oni territory and tried to find the Dragon Armor. They, of course, failed, but, of course, got trapped by Iron Baron. Then, finally, Wu regains his memories and, of course, leads Iron Baron to, of course, the Dragon Armor, which they meet Firstborn. Of course, Iron Baron, of course, dies, and of course, Firstborn gives Wu the Dragon Armor. Meanwhile, back in Ninjago, Mistake, of course, distracts Garmadon. That way, Skylar can tap into Garmadon's powers, which works. However, Mistake dies, and of course, Skylar got poisoned from, of course, Garmadon's powers. Harumi dies when a building was collapsing. Of course, the ninjas and Wu come back, and of course, Lloyd has a fight with, of course, Garmadon, which Lloyd regains his energy powers, and of course, Garmadon warns Lloyd that the Oni are coming. After she died, Harumi meets the Crystal King. He offered to revive Harumi, but if she would become his servant after he revives her. If not, Harumi's only alternative is spending eternity in the departed realm. After deep consideration, she accepts the offer. Harumi is revived and starts following orders from a crystal given to her by the Crystal King. She frees herself from the building debris and runs off. She returns to the Oni temple and upon placing the crystal into a pedestal where the Oni mask of hatred once was. The Oni temple is transformed and the Crystal King reveals that the real identity was the Overlord. At first, Harumi was horrified, but of course, learning the identity of being who revived her, having known what he has previously done to Ninjago, but after the Overlord tells Harumi that the only reason he does what he does is because he believes that destruction comes from the battles between good and evil. Harumi agrees to serve him and help him build an army made out of benchstone, which would let them have the advantage. Sometime after Garmadon's defeat, the ninjas rebuild the monastery of Spinjitzu, which is now painted of the adventures that the ninjas have been, not only to remember the many times they saved Ninjago, but for the future generation to continue the legacy of them. Pixel rebuilds the Earth Driller for coal and uses it to stop the giant Stone Warrior from escaping the Kryptonian prison. Few weeks after the end of Hunted, of course, the Oni came to the first realm and of course turned all of the Dragon Hunters into stone, while Fate nearly survived with, of course, Firstborn. They arrived to Ninjago, of course, and of course they are getting ready for the greatest battle of their lives. Of course, the ninjas got prepared. However, they needed Garmadon's help, so they did. But in order to, of course, defeat the Oni was, of course, destroying the Realm Crystal, which they did by using the Sword of Sanctuary because of particular references. Of course, it didn't work, so the only way was to defeat the Oni was, of course, reforging the armor of the Golden Master into the Golden Weapons, which Kai reforged them back into the 4 Golden Weapons of Spinjitzu. Of course, Cole dies, however, he, of course, didn't die because Cole is everyone's favorite ninja. And of course, they defeated the Oni by using the Tornado of Creations, which was never seen for a long time. And of course, Lloyd dies. Turns out he's in the spiritual realm or something, which he meets the first Spinjitzu Master for the very first time. Of course, the first Spinjitzu Master asked Lloyd whether or not he could join him or goes back into doing duties as a Green Ninja. And Lloyd chose the second option, but he thinks that the first Spinjitzu Master was a dream. And of course, everyone was fine, and of course, all was good, and that's how Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu has ended. But that's not the end, of course, of the Ninjago timeline, because we gotta talk about the Garmadon solo comic. Nothing a lot happens in this solo comic. I highly recommend you, of course, read the comic books, because, of course, the comic books are so good. But I'm not gonna talk a lot about the comic book, because I don't care about books. But anyways, of course, Garmadon has his own adventure between the events of after March of the Oni, of course, and between Ninjago Crystalized. So after his adventures, Garmadon, of course, returns to Ninjago City and needs a guidance and help from Vinny from NGTV News of controlling his anger. Of course, Vinny does that, and Garmadon became a nice person and lived a normal life in Ninjago City. The ninjas are back in their usual ways, doing absolutely nothing. Wu tells them that they got soft, but the ninjas fight Wu to prove him that they haven't gone soft at all, but they unfortunately failed. The ninjas look for a quest in the city, however they found no luck at all. But the ninjas watch an NGTV news broadcast and discover that a pyramid is unexplored. So they travel to the Desert of Doom to explore the pyramid with clutch powers. They open up a tomb, freeing Aspira, and Aspira stole Kai's fire. Aspira attacks Ninjago City and of course leaves the ninjas in the pyramids. However, Pixel saved the ninjas and of course escaped from the pyramid's destruction. The ninjas return to Ninjago City, however, Aspira is searching for the treacherous deceiver and goes to the Ninjago Museum of History to find one of the scrolls of Forbidden Spinjitzu. Kai, Jay, and Cole meet Scales and Sidicus to learn about the origins about Aspira and the treacherous deceiver. They suspect that the deceiver is Garmadon, only to find out that the treacherous deceiver is actually Wu. Meanwhile, Lloyd, Zane, and Nia steal the second Forbidden Scroll from the Explorers Club, and the ninjas have a cool, awesome Forbidden Spinjitzu battle. Of course, after winning, Zane vanished to the past of the Netherrealm by Aspira when he saved Wu from the hit of Magia. The ninjas travel to the Netherrealm and meet Sorla and the Ice Fishers in the Great Lake. The Blizzard Samurai attack the Great Lake and destroys the last fire. Kai regains half of his powers, and of course, the Ice Fishermen cheered and called him Firemaker. Lloyd leaves the Great Lake to look for the Titan mech. He later meets Akita and nicknames her Red. Lloyd finds the Titan mech and repairs it to continue on to find Zane. Cole climbs a mountain and gets the Hurtles from the Traveler's Tree. Craig saves Cole from a fall, and Cole and Craig became friends. Later, Kai, Jay, Cole, Nia, and Craig decided to look for the Land Mountie and drive it through to the Ice Emperor. Lloyd learns that Zane is the Ice Emperor and that to the latter decades has passed in the Netherrealm as opposite to a short time in Ninjago. Meanwhile, Wu and Pixel try to open a portal to the Netherrealm but accidentally free the Pre-Eminent from the Departed Realm. Pixel of course defeats the Pre-Eminent and brought it back to the Departed Realm. Lloyd is sent to the dungeons where he meets Kitaru, Akita's brother. Griffex helps Lloyd and Kitaru out in order to reclaim his throne. Boreal attacks the ninjas and Craig. Nia used her ice abilities to, of course, defeat Boreal. But, of course, that didn't work. But finally, Kai regains his powers and, of course, defeated Boreal. Lloyd gets defeated by Zane. But Zane regains his memory, allowing the latter to free the Netherrealm from its eternal winner. And peace is finally restored to the Netherrealm. Vex was banished from the Netherrealm, and of course Akita kisses Lloyd, and the ninjas return to Ninjago safe and sound. At some point, Unagami, the AI of the Abandoned Prime Empire video game, became associated with the mechanic. Both him and the mechanic have plans to create a portal that will allow him to enter the real world. Chi and Nia start to have dance lessons for a short time. Weeks later, the mechanic robs the bank and is able to outrun the ninjas. In his headquarters, the mechanic requests Unagami a robo-arm that allows him to feel things. Kinda sus, I guess, but okay. The ninjas stop the mechanic's heist in the old electronic warehouse, and after the mechanic is arrested, Jay discovered the motherboard that the thugs were searching for. They went to the mechanic's headquarters, and Jay puts the motherboard into the Prime Empire arcade cabinet, and of course, the city in Ninjago's arcade gates turned into Prime Empire. Jay walks into the cabinet and is transported into Prime Empire. Inside the game, Jay is followed by multiple red visors and became friends with Scott. Hundreds of gamers around Ninjago City play Prime Empire, lots of them reaching level 13, and all of them get transported into the game. The ninjas go searching for Milton Dyer, deciding that Milton Dyer must be Unagami. Some prisoners from Kryptonian prison are released by Unagami, while the ninjas go to Cyberborg, who help them get into the game while they are attacked by prisoners. Unfortunately, Zane and Pixel stayed in Ninjago while fighting the real Milton Dyer in Ninjago. The ninjas enter Prime Empire. They fail to defeat multiple red visors, but of course Kai recklessly loses 2 of his lives after thinking that he can respawn anytime. The ninjas meet the League of Jay and Scott. Kai loses another life before told by Scott that the players in Prime Empire only get 4 lives. Scott takes the ninjas to a hidden chamber to find Jay. They find Jay and headed to Terra Karana. They meet Okino and of course went on a journey to find the first katana. After fighting many red visors, went into the glitch and of course stopping the red dragon. Of course they got the first katana and then went back to get the second katana. Meanwhile, back in Ninjago City, Zane, Pixel, and Wu located Mrs. Dyer. They of course needed her for answers about where Milton Dyer is. The ninjas return to Terra Technica and of course attempt to enter the Speedway 5 billion to get the second katana. The ninjas discovered that they need more credit to able to enter the race. Some of the ninjas were ambushed by red visors and defeats them easily. Then Jay and Nia entered a dance competition to win 500 credits to able to enter the race. They of course won the competition and of course the ninjas are ready to enter the race. They find Scott and begin to fix vehicles for the race. Lloyd finds Racer 7 and tries to convince her that Prime Empire is a video game, but she tells Lloyd she can't win. So Racer 7 realized that Prime Empire is a video game. Racer 7 decides to join the ninjas in Speedway 5 billion. The red visors find Scott's garage, and of course Scott sacrificed himself and he of course turned into a cube. The Speedway 5 billion begins, and the ninjas are trying their best to of course win the Speedway 5 billion. Unfortunately, Kai and Cole died because they only had 1 life left and they turned as cubes. So Lloyd, Jay, and Nia of course won the race alongside with Racer 7 and of course obtained the second katana. Lloyd, Jay, and Nia travel to Terra Dormina to retrieve of course the final katana. They both each lose a life by following the platform challenge in Terra Dormina. Lloyd of course is forced to fight the boss Avatar Harumi. He obtained the final katana and loses his last life in the process. And Jay and Nia travel to the Temple of Madness. Zane begins acting like a detective in order to find Milton Dyer. Zane and Pixel gets into a fight with the people inside of Laufey's, and they go to Buddy's Pizza in search of Milton Dyer. The mechanic ambushes Zane and Pixel at Buddy's Pizza, and Pixel wakes up to realize that Zane and the mechanic are gone. Pixel finds and manages to find Milton Dyer, who reveals that Unagami is the game. Wu is captured by the mechanic's henchman, and the mechanic completes the gateway between the real world and of course Prime Empire. Jay and Nia make their way to the Temple of Madness and of course defeats the challenge of the Shimi's Sushi restaurant. Jay and Nia inserted 3 katanas into their respective ports, and Nia sacrificed herself to save Jay, and of course Nia became Cube, which was the last cube they need to require to make the portal to enter Ninjago. Of course Jay completes the game, but he fails to defeat Unagami, and Unagami exits the game into Ninjago. Jay summons the Blue Dragon to help him defeat multiple red visors and exits Prime Empire and enters Ninjago. He of course made it to Ninjago and has a plan to, of course, have a conversation with both Unagami and Milton Dyer. So, Jay tries to lead Unagami to Borg Tower, while both Zane, Pixel Wu, and Milton Dyer go up to the top of Borg Tower. Milton Dyer and Unagami reconnect, and Unagami agrees to, of course, release everyone who was inside of Prime Empire. Kai, Cole, Lloyd, Nia, and Scott return to Ninjago along with everyone else who were trapped within the game. The ninjas are invited to Shintaro by King Vangelis, so the ninjas and Wu went to Shintaro. But they of course encountered Direbat and of course destroying the Destiny's Bounty. They of course got saved by the Sky Folks from Shintaro and brought them to Shintaro. Meanwhile, Harumi visits Shintaro and warns Vangelis of the ninjas, who tells her that he has the situation under control. Harumi hides from the ninjas and soon, of course, escapes from Shintaro in case of the ninjas ruining her plan. Cole meets a gecko, but gets captured by the Skull Sorcerer after discovering the dungeons of Shintaro. The ninjas went off to the dungeons of Shintaro to rescue Cole. They of course got captured by the Skull Sorcerer, and the ninjas freed the geckos, months, and themselves from the Skull Sorcerer but got separated. Lloyd, Jay, and Nia meet Queen Martessa. Martessa and Nia fight for Jay. Nia wins her battle with Martessa and becomes the month's new queen. Kai and Zane, however, get accused of being awakening warriors by the geckos and get taken to Chancellor Gulch. Zane taps Amino and Kai becomes the geckos' new chancellor. Vanya and Chompy rescues Cole from Giant Spider and warns Wu and Vangelis about the Skull Sorcerer. Vangelis reveals that he is the Skull Sorcerer and sends Cole, Vanya, and Wu to Rock Bottom and meet the Lonely. Cole forms an alliance with the Lonely, Vanya, and Wu, and together they climb up using Cole's new elemental earth energy. Vangelis resurrects Griefbringer. Kai and Nia meet as leaders of the Geckos and Months. Cole attempts to Spinjitzu burst in the heart of the mountains, but fails. The Skull Sorcerers deceive the ninja, and the two tribes are captured again. Cole, the Lonely, later known as of course the Uply, when they of course made it up from Rock Bottom. Vanya and Wu made it up, of course, getting out of Rock Bottom, and of course Cole, Plundar, Fungus, and Foreground went to, of course, the Vengestone Mines and freeze the other ninjas. The battle for Shintaro Mountains begins. Cole battles the Skull Sorcerer but failed due to the lies about the Blades of Deliverance. Cole remembers his promise to Lily and defeats the Skull Sorcerer using the Spinjitzu burst. The Vengestone Mines shut down, Vanya becomes Queen of Shintaro, and the ninjas and Wu go whenever the wind takes them. Masaka, Wu, and Clutch Powers traveled to the Uncharted Island, but soon got captured by the Keepers, believing that they're here to steal the Storm Amulet. The ninjas went on a rescue mission to save them, but soon got captured later. The Keepers sacrificed Jay to the fake Wojira, but of course, soon after, Jay is rescued by the ninjas, and the ninjas capture the criminals and Ronin. Under the surface, Bentamar and Kalmar find the temple of Wojira, and Kalmar runs tests on her. One day, Master Wu tells the ninjas about the virtues of Spinjitzu. He tests the ninjas on their curiosity, balance, wisdom, honesty, generosity, and courage. He later congratulates the ninjas for using the 6 virtues of Spinjitzu to save them. In the distance, Harumi watches the whole fight going on and trying to smuggle Benchstone by criminals. Nia's powers go haywire, almost destroying a village. The ninjas went and investigate and discover Marlopia. Kalmar kills his father, takes the throne, and blames the attack on the ninjas. Bentamar helps the ninjas escape Marlopia to fight Kalmar for the Storm Amulet. Kalmar successfully awakes Wojira, flooding Ninjago City. But Kalmar got eaten by Wojira after losing control over her. Then Nia sacrificed herself, becoming one with the sea, and defeats Wojira. Nia went her separate ways with the ninjas, and the ninjas held a funeral for Nia. The ninjas went on their separate ways, and the new elected president creates his own ninja called the New Ninjas. Nia regains her memories and tries to find her way back to her friends. They break Aspira from prison, and Aspira absorbs Nia's elemental powers, which successfully unmerges her from the sea. Of their actions, the ninjas go to Crypterium Prison. Meanwhile, Harumi recruits Aspira, Pythor, Vangelis, the Mechanic, and the newly rebuilt Mr. E, or Mr. F, making them the Council of the Crystal King, or Nia breaks the ninjas out of prison to investigate, but Lloyd is captured by Harumi. The Crystal Council steals the golden weapons of Spinjitzu and then burns down the monastery once again. The Overlord is restored to a physical form from the golden weapons. Lloyd escapes Primeval's eye, while the Overlord sends his Crystal Army and his Crystal Warriors to attack Ninjago. The ninjas needed help from Garmadon, and the ninjas grab a whole bunch of civilians to help stop the Overlord. Lloyd and Garmadon confronts the Overlord, and the Overlord reveals that he was the one who corrupted Garmadon. Harumi betrays the Overlord, realizing that he was the one responsible for the death of her parents. Shintaro, the Merlopians, the Keepers, the Serpentine, and the Ninjago citizens came and joined the fight. The ninjas unlock their dragon form after they jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin, destroying and defeating the Crystal Warriors and the Crystal Council. Lloyd finally unlocks his Oni form for about 10 seconds and of course falls to his death. But the ninjas sacrifice themselves with combining the 4 golden weapons and of course their elemental powers, making the 4 golden weapons and their elemental powers into the Golden Ultra Dragon. Lloyd defeats the Overlord once again, but unfortunately Kai, Cole, Zane, and Jay lost their elemental powers. They of course returned to the monastery, and with the help of their friends, they were able to of course rebuild the monastery once again. In between Crystalized and Dragon's Rising, we got Quest of the Lost Power. I highly recommend of course reading this book also because it completely ties in after Crystalized and before Dragon's Rising. That way, you know, some Ninjago fans are probably very confused of course the ninjas losing their powers in one season and then, you know, regaining their elemental powers with no explanation. So I highly recommend reading this book because it tells, of course, 4 stories of how the ninjas regained their elemental powers back again. So I highly recommend doing so. A girl named Anna creates the first photech, impressing Imperium scientists such as Dr. Leroux. Anna is invited to work at the Advanced Systems Lab. However, it is revealed that Dr. Leroux has her ways of the Imperium life, such as torturing dragons for their power. Dr. Leroux uses some dragon power of Sora in the laboratory to transfer Anna's photech into a wolf-like beast. Anna decides to leave the Advanced Systems Lab and rushes home to her parents. Her parents become disappointed in her after hearing what happened and disown her as their own daughter. Meanwhile, in the monastery, Wu begins to study about the coalescence. Wu asks Lloyd to bring him as many scrolls he could find about the coalescence. Meanwhile, a boy named Aaron, who is a big fan of ninjas, is training his ninja abilities in his small neighborhood. The merge begins and causing so much chaos around Ninjago City. Aaron is of course saved by Lloyd. The ninjas try to stop the merge. However, all 16 realms are merged with Ninjago. The merge forms a new generation of elemental masters. Aaron's neighborhood disappears, leaving Aaron as the only survivor. Anna escapes from Imperium after it merged with Ninjago, changing her name to Sora, naming herself after the dragon she saw prior at the laboratory. Her, alongside with Wildfire, Euphrasia, and Geo, gain elemental powers of technology, heat, wind, and fusion respectively. After escaping Imperium, Sora stumbles across the early lakes of the Crossroads and meets up with Aaron, which they later become best friends, together forever. Kai wakes up in the land of monsters and tries to escape the infested place
of the land of monsters, until he stumbles upon this dragon called Daiden, who is taking on revenge to the monster that ate her babies, until Kai reconciles with Daiden, and they went on their adventures to try and escape the land of monsters. During their adventures, they stumble upon a creature called Fuzz, giving Kai new abilities. They continue on with their journey, however, they stumble upon a person called Bolson. However, Daiden was captured by some monsters, and Kai, Bolson, and Fuzz went after her. However, this was a setup, and Bolson was under control by Fuzz's mother. They defeated Fuzz's mother, and Kai and Bolson are in good terms, and Kai and Daiden continue on with their journey to escape the land of monsters. Kai stumbled upon a cave and meets an old fire mech called Rusty, who was owned by the first Elemental Master of Fire, saying that the Elemental Master of Fire was turned into a monster, so they had to defeat him. So Kai reforged Rusty's staff and defeated the first Elemental Master of Fire. Later, they continued on with their journey, trying to escape the land of monsters, until Kai sees a weird vision of Wu. Kai stumbles upon with this vision, and Rusty notices that this is giving false light. Daiden also shows up, while Kai submerges himself underneath the whole lake to try and reach Master Wu. Same goes with Daiden, where she also sees some visions of her kids also going underneath the lake as well. Rusty realizes that there's a monster underneath, sacrificing himself, while Kai and Daiden finish off the monster. Kai was successful to escape the land of monsters and found the Destiny's Bounty and flew it back to the monastery.
Lloyd wakes up in the monastery, which went through a slight change due to the merge. Lloyd finds Kai and they both reunite each other. The first merge quake happens, and Lloyd and Kai stop it using their powers. Kai leaves to discover new land and to search for the other ninjas. Nia wakes up close to the Kingdom of Madness. Zane turned off and gets somehow locked in a upstated pod in the Monastery of Imperium. Cole finds himself in the Land of Lost Things, a valley of garbage in Imperium. Meanwhile, in the wilderness, Heatwave gets captured by the claws of Imperium. Wildfire leaves the wilderness and travels to Imperium, where she is imprisoned soon after. Many years after the merge, Eren and Sora became friends and they participate in the Mechmaster 5000. A little dragon called Ryu escapes from Rapton. Sora and Eren go after Ryu and Rapton. Ryu uses elemental sparks on Sora, revealing her as the Master of Technology. Although Eren, Sora, and Ryu are able to defeat Rapton, they are quickly defeated by Lord Raz. Lloyd rescues Eren, Sora, and Ryu from the prison train. The three discover that Ryu comes from the land of the Three Mountains. Lloyd defeats the Claws by using the Dragon Matriarch's dragon powers. Ryu decided to stay with Eren and Sora, and Lloyd trains the two. Lloyd starts to train Eren and Sora in the monastery. They later sneak out to the Crossroads Carnival. Creel needed help from Eren and Sora because one of her friends is, of course, caged and locked up by a showman called Dorama. Eren and Sora stumble upon him and, of course, tries to stop Dorama. Lloyd arrives in the theater and helps the two take down Dorama. Eren discovers that he can throw an object into Spinjitzu, which calling it Object Spinjitzu. Meanwhile, Nia finds Kai defending the Kraglins from the Earth Dragons. Nia, of course, joins the fight with, of course, the Kraglins and Kai, and it didn't go planned, so Nia, of course, brings the Destiny's Bounty to autopilot to, of course, get help from Lloyd, Eren, and Sora. They saw the autopilot Destiny's Bounty headed their way, almost destroying the monastery once again. They, of course, stopped the Destiny's Bounty and headed their way to the Kingdom of Madness. They, of course, stopped a few Kraglins, realizing that they're on the wrong side, and of course, Lloyd, Eren, and Sora joined Nia with the Kraglins. Kai, of course, got lost during the fight against the Earth Dragons and soon find his way back, but of course, he brought the Earth Dragons back to the Kingdom of Madness. Ryu used his powers to stop the Earth Dragons from taking the Crackling Mud, and of course, Ryu saves the day. The ninjas went to the Cloud Kingdom while they're being attacked by tentacle beasts. They of course stopped the tentacle beasts and the Merge Quake. Eren and Sora learned that Euphrasia is the new Master of Wind. The tentacle beasts and the Merge Quake came back, so the ninjas defeated the tentacle beasts and of course stopped the Merge Quake. Nia stayed behind in the Cloud Kingdom to go check at their archives to find a way to stop the Merge Quakes, while the rest of the team go back to the monastery. The ninjas stop the claws from capturing another dragon. However, Raptor used Sora's Photak and of course uses the Photak to of course attack the ninjas. Sora decides to of course go back to Imperium to stop the Photaks, while Lloyd and Eren of course join with her. They successfully got into Imperium, however they went on their separate ways. Eren is of course chased by Imperium guards, while Lloyd meets Wildfire. However, Sora of course went to the Advanced Systems Lab, reuniting with Dr. LaRoe. Eren meets the Imperium Team Resistance Force and of course trains them, while Lloyd fights Wildfire and of course becoming friends and of course saving Heatwave and the rest of the dragons. They free all the dragons and of course causing havoc around Imperium. Sora of course made and successfully of course worked all of the Photaks and of course using them to fight the dragons. Meanwhile, in the monastery, Kai sees a ghost, which of course he follows and went into a portal gate, which he later meets up with Nia. Nia and Kai are pretty confused of where they are, and they see a pod, which they are able to fix, and soon discover that Zane was in this pod. Lloyd and Wildfire try their best to stop the Photaks, while Eren and Sora find Ryu in the palace. Lloyd and Wildfire decides to of course take this fight to of course the palace of Imperium, and of course the Photaks follow them too. Zane brings the monastery of Imperium to the surface and of course helps Lloyd and Wildfire. Meanwhile, Eren and Sora try their best to of course fight Lord Raz, and Sora regains her powers with Ryu and of course stopping Lord Raz. The ninjas are stuck in the monastery trying a way to figure out to transport all the dragons to of course to the monastery of Spinjitzu. So Lloyd has to go underneath Imperium and meets a Source Dragon. The Source Dragon gives his power to Lloyd, giving Lloyd a huge vision. He of course gains a lot of power and uses his energy power to of course give more power to of course the portal gate, leading all the dragons back to their monastery. This, however, of course, made Lloyd unconsciousness, and of course, all the ninjas went back to the monastery of Spinjitzu. Beatrix locks up Lord Raz, and of course, it's her turn to join the fight. After stopping another Merge Quake, the ninjas decided to find a way of how to stop the Merge Quake. Nia tells the ninjas of a map to the Temple of the Dragon Course, so the ninjas went to the Temple of the Dragon Course and meet the spirit of the temple. He tells the history about the Coalescence, later known as the Merge, and of course the Dragon Cores, which they need to find in 3 different places. So the ninjas split into teams and of course finds the 3 Dragon Cores. On their journey, Lloyd and Eren stumble across the gangs of the sea. They are of course being controlled by a giant crab, so they of course stop the crab. Meanwhile, with Kai and Wildfire, they of course got trapped by the Greenbone Warriors and of course escaped them and tried to get of course a Dragon Core from the Lava Tides. They have to of course clean up Wildfire's messes. With Nia and Sora, they of course stumble upon the final Jin, Ericor. They of course got cursed by the Howlers, and of course Ericor regains his Jin magic and of course defeats the Howlers, and Ericor gives a compass to Nia and Sora to find and locate a Dragon Core. Meanwhile, Mr. Rohiki and Zane need to find a way to of course open a portal gate. So of course Zane had his own day in the crossroads, and of course challenged himself in his own challenge. He unfortunately lost, but they do eventually got the missing part they need to continue finding a way to open the portal gate. Zane later gets captured by 2 agents and brought him to the administration. Meanwhile, Kai and Wildfire are trying to get a dragon core from the lava tides in Dorama. They successfully did it, and they brought it to the wilderness. Sora and Nia made it to the land of lost things, and they reunited with Cole. They of course got caught by the Hoarder, but the new elemental master of fusion, Geode, saved the day. Dr. Laurel came by and stole a dragon core. Meanwhile, the Hoarder comes back, and without the dragon core, all hope is lost, but of course Sora saves the day from defeating the Hoarder. Meanwhile, in the wilderness, Kai trains Wildfire to of course become a ninja. They soon discovered that they of course got tricked by Dorama, and of course Dorama has the real dragon core. Lloyd and Aaron landed in the administration. They soon find and rescue Zane and try to find the last dragon core. They successfully done it, and of course they escaped the administration. They were the only team to successfully got dragon core, while the other 2 teams didn't. So the ninjas went back to Imperium to spy on them. Empress Beatrix has all 3 dragon cores and used it to make it into a weapon. Of course it didn't work and almost killed everyone, because one of the dragon cores was of course a fake. So Jordana of course helps Beatrix to accomplish making this weapon by stealing and using some source power energy from the giant source dragon underneath Imperium. Meanwhile, in the land of lost things, Sora made some guns into Geode, while Cole went off to his adventures to follow Master Wu. The ninjas infiltrate Imperium with the Imperium Team Resistance Force. However, they of course got caught by Beatrix, but they later got saved by of course Nia and Sora. The ninjas have a plan to tell the people of Imperium who Beatrix is, of course a fraud and a liar. They of course successfully done it, with of course Sora forming a resistance with her city. The Merge Quick weapon is finally completed, and of course Beatrix uses the weapon to shoot out Merge Quicks around the whole city. Chaos of course erupts, and the ninjas are trying their best to stop the Merge Quicks. Sora finally reunites with her parents, and of course she finally gained her true potential of the Master of Technology. She destroyed the Merge Quick weapon, and of course Aaron of course sends Beatrix to a Merge Quick. With this much Merge Quicks around Imperium, all of the Merge Quicks combine into of course the Merge once again. Chaos of course erupts around Ninjago and everywhere else, and of course the people need saving. So of course the ninjas go save all the civilians in the crossroads, and with combining all 3 dragon cores, Lloyd of course sacrificed himself and of course saving everyone from the Merge Quick. Lloyd brings the 3 dragon cores back to the owner of the Source Dragon, and of course the Source Dragon escapes and disappears. Meanwhile, back in the monastery, everyone is of course happy and of course eats Aaron's pie. And off in the distance, we see a spirit of Master Wu just watching the ninjas celebrate their victory. Meanwhile, back in Imperium, Lord Ross recruits Jordana to of course join his army, and of course talks about his master, which is unknown. So Jordana decided to go with Roz and headed to the wilderness to find the Shadow Dojo. A shipment of Chrono Steel arrived at Creel's junkyard, and the ninjas had to go and take all the shipment away just in case if someone takes it for evil. While doing so, Sora made 3 elemental mechs for herself, Cole, and Kai. They then went to the Mechmaster 5000, where the mechanic is hijacking the race. Sora, Cole, and Kai used their elemental mechs. However, they realized that their elemental mechs can combine to different parts of each other's mechs, which ends up defeating the mechanic. Later in the day, the ninjas head over to the noodle competition down the crossroads. However, 2 ice dragons came down to the crossroads to take back their egg, so the ninjas do so. However, in the process, they were all covered in noodles.
Ross and Jordana treks through the forest of spirits and come upon the Shadow Dojo. Ross opens the temple using the capsule of dragon power Jordana collected. Ross reveals to Jordana that he was going to resurrect the Forbidden Five through a blood moon ritual to conquer the world. The ninjas save the city once again, making them heroes. Lloyd's been getting many visions about the blood moon and the wolf warriors, while Eren and Sora got a letter from Creel saying that a night ghost has been stealing from stores and her junkyard. Cinder, the brand new elemental master of smoke and a relative of Ash, comes to break in and steal the mallet of shattering. Cinder gives Ross a mallet, who he uses to hit the gong, enhancing the power of the wolf warriors. The Wolf Clan attack the Cloud Kingdom, holding all of the Riders of Destiny hostage while Euphrasia flees, crashing in Imperium, being found by Percival. The ninjas investigate more about the mallet of shattering. After reuniting with Euphrasia, the ninjas travel to the Cloud Kingdom. The ninjas fight the Wolf Mask warriors, who are being powered by the mallet and gong of shattering, and Cinder uses Shatter Spin, which he defeated the ninjas quickly. After the ninja retreat, Lloyd meditates and tries to contact the Source Dragons, telling the location to learn Rising Dragon. Meanwhile, in the Land of Lost Things, the Wolf Clan attack the Finders, which Cole comes to the rescue and save the Finders. They find broken parts of a portal gate which they fix and traveled back to the Monastery of Spinjitzu. The ninjas arrive at the Dragon Master Dojo where they meet Eagle and Rontu. They are separated by their Fang level while being trained by Eagle and Rontu. After hearing Bonzel's tale, Cole and Zane decided to travel to Mysterium to keep her safe. Cole, Zane, and Bonzel arrive to Mysterium and meet Glandaria at the Monastery of Mysterium. Kai performs the Rising Dragon technique after playing Countershock with Nia's help. The administration agents attempt to arrest Zane. However, the blood moon occurs, causing Eagle and Rontu to be petrified. Zane, Cole, and Glandaria fight the agents while Bonzel escapes from Jay, who's being distracted by Sprite. The other ninja travel to the Forest of Spirits after Lloyd receiving multiple visions, but a storm caused by Jordana caused them to be separated. Meanwhile, Cole, Zane, Bonzel, and Glandaria also travel to the forest to the magical storage house, where at the storage house, Bonzel is stored in a protection container, but are trapped by Jordana's trap. Cole, Zane, and Glandaria are freed from the storage house and find travel to the Cloud Kingdom. Ross defeats Eren and Ryu and takes possession of Bonzel again. During the ritual of the Blood Moon, Kai, Sora, and Wildfire free the Cloud Monks that are used as sacrifice. Cole, Zane, and Glandaria try to fix the Cloud Kingdom's engine and unaware that Euphrasia is helping them. Lloyd, Nia, Eren, and Ryu arrive at the Shadow Dojo and fight the Wolf Clan. Kai uses Rising Dragon to combat Cinder's Shatter Spin. However, Ross sends Kai to the Nether Space, freeing Nod. Both Nia and Lloyd also perform Rising Dragon, and Eren tries to use Object Spinjitzu, thinking that he defeated Ross without knowing that Sora helped him. Bonzel, who returned to her spell form, fight against Jordana's magic, successfully closing the portal to Nether Space. Rox possesses Jordana's body, Ross begs for his master to be helped, and the Shadow Dojo and the Wolf Clan are teleported somewhere else. Ross takes control of Nod, and the ninja are reunited at the Cloud Kingdom. Wildfire goes on a little adventure, deciding to visit the wilderness after losing Kai. In the lava waste, she saves 3 recent hatched dragons and returns them to their mother and makes the decision to become the new Red Ninja. Nod and possess Jordana, aka Rox, kill 3 Archdragons and steal their crowns. Eren, Sora, and Ryu stumble upon the matriarch of the Mountain Dragons, who suffers a severe injury, leading her to her death. But it's revealed that she birthed a daughter, Erdity. The ninjas get Erdity to the World Forest. Then the Source Dragon emotion appears to the ninja at the monastery. She tells them about the death of the Archdragons, which Lloyd shows the Source Dragon emotion a map he found of the City of Temples. She tells Lloyd that the murder of the Archdragons may be present at the Tournament of the Sources, so the ninjas decided to go to the Tournament of the Sources. However, Ross and the Wolf Clan head to the City of Temples and strike an alliance with Black, who promised that the Wolf Clan would win the games in the former's favor. Many Elemental Masters receive an invitation to the Tournament of the Sources, but not the ninja. So the ninjas go to the Dragonstone Shrine and try to enter the tournament, only for them to be dismissed by Black.
The ninja used their dragons and vehicles to scale up the cliff, however they were attacked by security bots. The ninja and dragon used their powers to destroy the bots and get to the top of the cliff. After seeing the ninja skills, Roby, Black's nephew, and the games master of the tournament invites the ninja to enter the tournament. After finding out the ninja entered the games, Black creates attacker bots to stop them and Zerg, a Devonian, and the master of Reflex from winning the tournament. The Tournament of the Sources begins, where elemental masters would compete to be crowned as champion of the sources. All of the ninjas do in fact lose except for Sora, which she's up against Nott. Nott ends up winning, but before the ceremony, Wildfire and Xur stop the ceremony, revealing that Black was the one who was rigging the whole Tournament of the Sources. Nott betrays Roz and reveals his plans to Roz that he's gonna free the rest of the Forbidden Five thanks to all of the elemental powers. The ninja and Roz fight against Nott, but there was no use, so Nia frees Kai from Nether Space and Kai fights Nott. Nott is slowly getting defeated, so he and the rest of the Forbidden Five try to escape through a gate to the Cloud Kingdom, taking Roz with them so Nott could get his revenge on the latter. Eren runs after them, saying he needs Roz, and Lloyd and Sora runs after him. The portal gate explodes, with Eren being the only ninja to cross over. Sora wins the Tournament of the Sources, and on the other side, Nia tells Kai about Jay, and Kai says that they should go and find Jay. The Source Dragon Emotion appears behind Lloyd, and he apologizes for failing. Emotion Dragon gives Lloyd a dragon icon to repay him for what he has done for the Source Dragons. She explains that he can use it to summon her to the mortal world once and vanish. Elsewhere, Eren tells the unconscious Roz how the ninjas failed him and planned to find his parents.
Nia, Kai, and Wildfire are on their search party to find Jay. However, they stumble upon the lightning tides and they barely escaping from them. Lloyd, Zane, Sora, and Frak are on their search to find Eren until they stumble upon Dorama's puppet. They end up defeating it, finding a prismatic blade located in the puppet's head. Zane splits up with the ninja to find Eren elsewhere, where the rest of the ninja almost died from falling off from a cliff. However, they were saved by Tyr and the Dragonians, and they continue on with their search to find Eren. Meanwhile, the Forbidden Five are gathering supplies, being prepared for the request to free Thunderfang and getting more power from him. Eren is training with Roz, and Roz is almost dying, needing to go to the Spectral Lands to grab an elixir. So he asks Eren to do so, meeting up with Moro, who is now the protector of the Spectral Lands. After getting the elixir, they head off to find Eren's parents. Still stuck on searching for Jay, Kai had an idea to go to the arcade place to play a game that Jay was good at. Kai beat his high score, however, Jay wasn't there. However, Jay was remotely playing the game, beating Kai's high score. However, Wildfire got a note from Roby saying that the City of Temples was under attack by the Forbidden Five. Meanwhile, Zane found another monastery, and inside the monastery he sees Raptor and his freebooters taking away a pod and bringing it into the prison train. So, Zane follows it and realizes that the pod needs to be opened. Turns out the pod inside was Pixel, and Pixel reunites with Zane. They try to escape from Raptor and the freebooters. However, Nott was also there, trying to find one of the prismatic blade inside of the prison train. They have their fight, however, the train goes out of control, and Zane sacrifices himself to stop the train, damaging himself, where Pixel has to rebuild him. The ninja took some rest. However, Zark and the Dragonians battle the ninja to get the prismatic blade. However, Zane and Pixel arrive during the battle, which makes Zark and the Dragonians retrieve. Zark tells to Rox that he didn't get any blades, which makes Rox so pissed off. Kerr tells to Rox she received the blade, however it's destroyed, so Rox had the idea to go to Ninjago and forcing Ericor to fix it. Meanwhile, in the City of Temples, Roby is badly injured due to Kerr's decay, while Kai and Nia need to find a way and research about the prismatic blades, Thunderfang, etc. However, Nia, Sora, and Ryu were teleported by Ericor, telling them that he needs help because Rox is here. She ends up fixing the prismatic blade thanks to Ericor, and Rox retrieves with the newly built prismatic blade. Nia and Sora get teleported back, warning the ninja about what the Forbidden Five are doing to use the 5 prismatic blades to free Thunderfang. So the ninja retreat and find a way to find the last prismatic blade, locating it and heading to the World Forest. Meanwhile, Eren and Roz stumble upon a gravestone place where Eren realizes that his parents are now dead, which Roz tells him that there's a way to reverse the merge to get his parents back. All they have to do is go to the Dragon Core Temple, which they try to do. However, a bounty hunter called Rogue is trying to get Roz, which they successfully try to escape from him. They made it in the Dragon Core Temple, asking the spirit where the Forge of Forgotten is, that way they can forge another dragon icon. The spirit tells them that it is located in the underworld. However, upon leaving, the ninja reunited with Eren and Roz and asked them if they have the last prismatic blade, which they in fact do. However, Drix and the Dragonians came by, which they took both prismatic blades and retreats back to the Forbidden Five. However, the ninja have a plan to get there first, and a whole battle begins, but the Forbidden Five unleash Thunderfang, bringing chaos and a whole storm, which Thunderfang consumed the Forbidden Five souls. Thunderfang unleashes his powers to stop the ninja. However, he snips out a conduit, taking Lloyd's soul. However, with Eren's elixir that he got while trying to save Roz, Eren uses the elixir to defeat Thunderfang, bringing him to the Spectral Lands. After the battle, Sora goes with Eren and Roz to the underworld, while the ninja reunite with Jay, where he reveals that Eren's parents are actually alive in a place called the Land of Lee. So they set on their quest to go to the Land of Lee. But before they do, they meet up with Rontu and Eagle because Eagle is dying because of the wasting sickness, which he passed away. But the ninja are ready with Jay, and they head off with their mission to find Eren's parents. Meanwhile, Cole, Frack, and Kai are trading with Frack, but they decided to go to the Land of Lost Things. Meanwhile, Eren, Sora, and Roz are in Mysterium to find a map to the underworld. However, Mysterium looks a bit weird because everyone is hollowed out, thanks to the Spectral Forbidden Five. The ninja arrive at the Land of Lee, meeting Lee, which they realize that Lee was building upon his lies against his community and just trapping a whole bunch of civilians who were lost after the merge, which means that Eren's parents are also here, which they realize that they are actually here and alive. Meanwhile, in the Land of Lost Things, Kai, Frack, and Cole are trading. However, Frack got the same feeling as to Cole, where the Screaming Earth is happening. So they locate that exact Screaming Earth and realize that they had to dig it out together. And upon digging up the Screaming Earth, it was the remained bones of the Source Dragon Balance, which it disappears. Eren, Sora, and Roz finally arrive at the underworld, realizing that they need human sacrifice to be forged into a new dragon icon, which Eren and Sora refuse to, so they leave Roz and they have a huge battle where Eren and Sora retreat from Roz. They go back to the same gravestone site and realize that the entirety of the gravestone sites were fake, and realize there's a whole community down underneath. So they go underneath and see that there's a whole bunch of Lees fighting the ninja, and Eren realized that Lloyd found his parents, which he finally reunites with them. A whole spectral battle occurs, and the ninja escape the community of Lee, and Lloyd tells to Eren that somehow Thunderfang is back, and Eren tells them that there is a place called the Spectral Lands, so the ninja immediately go to the Spectral Lands. However, there's no one, and they realize that Thunderfang was there, gaining power thanks to the Forbidden Five collecting souls from people, that way he can become an actual Source Dragon. Cole, Frack, and Kai come back to the Land of Lost Things and see that Nod has taken the souls of the Finders, and Cole wants to take revenge on them, so they head to Imperium because that's where Nod is headed next. They headed to Imperium, and Percival asked the ninja that they can upgrade their prismatic blades. However, Cole doesn't want to because he wants to take full-on revenge on Nod. So he decides to, while Kai and Frank go get their prismatic blades upgraded. However, it's too late because Cole got hollowed by Nod. So Kai and Frank tested out the new prismatic blades, now called the Reveal Blade, and defeated all of these spectral Dragonians, which makes Nod retreat out of this battle. The ninjas stumble upon another monastery in the Spectral Lands, which they regroup and head to the City of Temples to find a way how to defeat Thunderfang. However, Ruby is hollowed, so they had to go ask Black, where Black said there is a way to get the Archdragon of Focus reawakened from mortals, which they decide to do. However, Jay decides to leave this whole mission and he heads out, while the rest of the ninja head out to get the Archdragon of Focus. Meanwhile, Roz heads to the Monastery of Spinjitzu, where he took a huge battle against Rohiki, Geo, and Rontu, and finding some stuff in Wu's archive to trap Wu. Both teams were successful to reawaken the Archdragon of Focus, and the Archdragon of Focus fights Thunderfang, which Thunderfang was finally defeated. However, this caused many things which disrupts the elemental powers from the ninja, and the ninja are now trapped thanks to Roz because Roz trapped them in the farthest distance of the merged lands. At Creel's junkyard, Labo had a great idea to start making a podcast, which gave Creel the exact same idea, stealing his idea and thus making a podcast called Crossroads Crosstalk. The ninja are now stranded, and there isn't a way out, but Aaron does tell Lloyd if there is a way out anyway, which Lloyd remarks to, well, if there is, then ninja never quits, which leads to Dragons Rising Season 4. And that's gonna be it on the 2025 update. So I hope you guys enjoyed my 2025 update on the complete timeline of Ninjago, and I cannot wait to do it again for 2026, just because it is the 15th anniversary of the series. So I am really excited to do this again for the 15th anniversary. So stay tuned for that next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on notifications whenever I post a brand new video. Happy New Year's Eve, and until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!